What is up? Hey guys, I think today, sorry for like not posting for a little while. It's probably been like a week and some change, but I'm back making videos again. I just wanted to talk about like what's kind of been going on with me and get a little more personal, I guess, with this. 'Cause, I mean, it's just kind of like my little video diary, I guess. Kind of corny to say, I guess, but you know, I think recently I've been kind of having like a lot of personal issues with myself, like, you know, just trying to get over, because I'm not perfect, right? And my biggest advocate is like mental health and like obviously like, you know, being a better version of yourself. And no one's perfect, you know. I can't always live up to that, you know. I have to I trip and fall, you know. And personally, my addiction, I'll just be open about it, is alcoholism. And you know, it's something that I kind of just I've been going through for a while. And it wasn't until like last year where, you know, I was like, okay, well, I know I have this problem, I know that I can't really stop, and then but I need to do something with my life, you know. Like, I was like, I gotta go to school, I gotta do something, you know, like, I can't just sit here and you know, on thoughts and prayers, you know. I mean, you know, and man, the guy, you know, man upstairs is great, but you know, you gotta also carry your weight too, you know. And so yeah, you know, I did those schooling, graduated and all that. And throughout this whole time, and I was really going through it, like health wise, you know, alcohol was really finally starting to like destroy my body. And I really was just kind of you know, just like kind of saying fuck it, you know. It's pretty sad, you know. It was just like, all right, you know, I gotta do something about it, you know. But during that whole entire time though, like during that entire time, I was quite literally like thinking like, okay, I know I have this wrong with me, but I need to focus on other things too. Like, I need to, like, that's always how I've always been. It's just like I could be going through this so much pain in the background, but I know I need to get moving to, you know, pursue career wise and like financially better, you know, better for myself. But I would kind of just ignore, you know, the elephant in the room, you know, of like, okay, well, dude, you need to calm down on the fucking, you know, on the sipping, you know, on the drinking. And it's like, and then, you know, it didn't really dawn on me, you know. And you would think me, because I'll be honest, you know, I threw up blood and all this other things. And after throwing up blood and all that stuff, you know, a normal person, right, would be like, okay, well, fuck, I'm never touching that shit again, you know, because, you know, it's like tearing on my stomach. And you know, I was hard-headed, you know. And it's not even by choice, you know. It's just quite literally like, you know, it alters your brain, you know. It just feels like you're, it just happened, it just pops up in your hand, you know. Like that, it sounds stupid, I know, like from a different perspective, it just sounds like you're just being weak, or you're being like yeah, well, I guess weak or whatever you might think, like, oh, okay, well, this is your fault, like, you know. I mean, it is, you know, but it's like, still, it's like the way your brain works when you're addicted to something is like why do you brush your teeth every day, you know what I'm saying? Why do you take a shower? It's because you need to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's hygiene, you know. And it's kind of like that in the sense where it's like, well, I just do it just to fucking do it, you know. Like, it just happens, like, you know, my brain's like, oh, I know it's doing this to you, doing that to you, but whatever, you know, cool, you know, let's go get that shit again, you know. And quite literally, that's how my mind will work, you know. That's how my mind works, you know. And it's like an overwhelming feeling of like it's not even me. It is me, but it isn't me, you know. And finally, you know, after I graduated in September, so I finished schooling, I think around like end of September or beginning of September, actually, no, middle, it was the 13th, around my mom's birthday. I told myself, like, okay, no more liquor, no more like hard liquor anymore, you know. And I've been off of that for like, well, yeah, like about 4 months, basically, almost 4 months. But I've been having beer, and that within itself is, you know, still destroying me, you know, because it's like I can't have any amount at all, like, now anymore. Like, now it's getting really bad, you know. And you know, finally I'm like, okay, I need to admit to myself that I need to let this take priority, you know. And not just kind of like, you know, I could be sober for like 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and after that it's like, fuck, you know. So recently I've just been trying to making videos and stuff like this. It makes me feel so much more better about myself. Even if like 2 people see this shit, like it still makes me feel great to like hopefully reach someone who's probably going through the same thing or worse, or you know, maybe not as much, but still, you know, I want to be there for someone because you know it's just I feel like people are. This is something that really is talked about, but it's not like talked about enough, you know, because you know my generation, you know, I'm 25, you know, and you know back in like 2018, 2015, or 20 between like 2016 to it's like 2018, you know, popping stuff, popping pills, doing all these, you know, very dumb stuff was like glorified, you know. So I feel like you're gonna hear like a lot of my generation just be kind of like addicted to something, you know. And you know, the message I'm trying to say here is like regardless of whether you know you have an addiction to something that's severe, or you know, maybe not anything like a substance, maybe you're just, you know, whatever it may be, you know, that you gotta just believe in yourself, right? Like I think having faith in yourself and not be that negative Nancy that like it's so easy to fall into. And that's something that like I try to push myself every day to like not be negative, not to be like that person who's just consistently like Debbie Downer, you know. And it's when you first fall into it, when you're first like super deep into it, whatever it may have traumatized you or affected you, you know, you kind of have like this doom and gloom look of the outlook of life, of the world, you know. Even if right now like it's you know in the best of state of, you know, we could be in for the US, but you know you gotta find that little sunshine, you know, in the clouds, you know. And I think if you could do that even in your darkest days, that keeps you sane and keeps you strong, you know. And I think that's what's kept me strong is like, you know, I've always had like an objective, and that's just to, you know, to do better for myself, do what I can for my family, and that's what's kind of kept me around, you know, truthfully. And obviously God, you know, I think the only reason why I'm even still hanging around and is because of the man upstairs. Because truth be told, you know, I'd probably drink more than, you know, probably like a 30 or 40-year-old has, you know. Like it's I'm not flexing that, you know, but I think having something regardless of whatever you're going through to strive for is what keeps you alive, you know. Because I think when you get yourself to the point where you're kind of just like saying fuck it to everything and kind of doing that, that's when things really start to just fall apart, you know. And that's what I noticed, you know. And finally in 2024 going to 2025, I actually, you know, I don't really crave like whiskey and all that stuff as severely. I still crave, you know, like the beers or something like that, you know, but now I know like I can't even have any of that, you know. So from here on out I'm gonna try my hardest to just forever stay sober, you know. And I owe it to myself, you know. And I want you guys to know too that like, you know, your family doesn't want to see you like that, you know. Whoever, you know, because there's someone that cares for you, whether it be your friends or, you know, siblings or your girlfriend, your partner, you know, they don't want to see you like that. They don't want to see you all messed up. And you know, you know, and the thing is too, you don't owe it to them either though, you know what I'm saying. You owe it to yourself, you know, because at the end of the day you're doing that to yourself. No one else is doing it to them. You're not doing it to, you know, towards anyone else. So I think having that mindset of like, okay, like I know I have a problem, and you, let's say you're getting everything else done like a functioning, you know, addict, but you need to start like realizing that like, okay, like this is a problem, you know. And that's hard. That like that whole mountain, I call it a mountain, but it's like a whole fucking mountain you have to go over, because you know you don't want to admit that, you know. Like you as a person, you as a you know, an addict for wherever you are, you know, addicted to, you hate being wrong. You won't admit it. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're gonna be like, nah, I'm good, you know, like it's not that, you know. But just strive for, you know, try to smile even when you don't want to smile. Try to just keep going forward, because you know you all you got, you know. And people around you want to, especially if you have, you know, make sure you have good people around you. They want to see you get better too. They want to see you strive and do better. That's my goal, you know, is to really push myself a lot more instead of just wallowing in, you know, when those times happen, you know, when the you know the cravings happen, it's like, okay, I can't let it, you know, I can't be, it's, you know, it's, I can't succumb to it every time, you know. And that's the thing, you know, it's like, you know, stop and take some time and really realize like, you know, if you do have a problem or you do need to really like, you know, lock it in and be more serious about what you want with yourself, you know, and if you really want to cure yourself. I get it. I fully get it. I know how, you know, it's like, you're like, fuck, dude, like I don't, you know, I don't want to stop. It feels like it sucks being sober. It's not. And truthfully, it doesn't. It really doesn't, you know. And honestly, like the biggest thing you could do is like find your biggest takeaway as to why, what initiates that feeling into yourself, you know. And I'm not saying like you're magically gonna get sober, because look, it's taken me fucking almost a year, and maybe basically a year for me to kind of get to the point where I don't drink, you know, nearly not even half as much as I did, you know, but still like it's still prevalent, you know. But just don't give up, you know. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Don't, no matter what you do, find something that you could live for and what strives you to be the better person, you know what I'm saying? Because like, you know, you need that. And I think that's what keeps, you know, you hear all these like addicts and stuff would be like staying around for a long time or whatever, or, you know, get sober, is because they still had a purpose to like, you know, live for something, you know. And like they motivates them to kind of like, okay, like I need to, you know, fix myself because I don't want to lose my dog or whatever the hell it may be, you know. Whatever it might be, just find that thing, you know, and, you know, really just smile and see what you could do. Find any little thing to smile. Even those days, man, when you wake up, you're like, fuck today. Nah, you know, still try to smile, you know, because you will, you know, you will thank yourself. Yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about for the for today. Honestly, I'm sorry for not making a video in like a week, but going over all this again, I truthfully, you know, feel like everyone can get through any little problem they're going through. You know, there's always someone going worse, do worse things than you, who would do anything to have your life instead of, you know, theirs. Be grateful and truthfully, you know, find that, you know, sit with yourself, you know, sit with yourself today and ask yourself, like, what is it that you know, that I get excited for, that keeps you going? You know, why do you want to get sober? You know, who is it that what are you doing this for, you know? And even if it's for yourself, even if it's for like something that you might be like, oh, well, someone will probably find that stupid, you know, you want to live for your, you know, we're fishing right now, so you like a fish, you know, maybe you have like a fish you've had since you were like 10 or 15, you know, it's grown up with you, you know, and you don't want to lose it, you know. Live for that, you know, whatever. We all have a purpose, and you know, we only got one shot life, and you know, do what makes you happy, and don't let these things just get to you, you know. And that's why I try to tell myself, even on my days where I do seem where I'm like kind of like irritated or like kind of like quiet, those are nothing compared to what I used to go through, you know. Like I promise you, you know, it was way worse, and it's up to you now to really fix yourself, you know. But you know, don't feel alone though, you know. It's good event, it's good to have someone be there for you and to vent towards, but you know, you need to take those initiatives to figure out what you're gonna do, you know, and what is causing you to feel this certain way. You could do this, and you're never alone. Sometimes, you know, we don't like to be alone. Sometimes, you know, what I would do is just be in a group setting all the time. Just sit there one night, you know, sit there and you know, and just write it down. You know, don't type it. Like write it down. Unless you really, you know, typing works for you, write it down. Write it down, like, you know, what's going on. What do you think is causing you to feel this said way? And what can you do to, you know, reduce these triggers or, you know, improve your own self, you know? Alright guys, you guys got this. Like I said, I'm open DMs. You always can just talk to me, text me. I am always here. You know, as I get, you know, progress to make myself better, I want to be there. It'd be great. Maybe we all could start together. You know, we could just, you know, get sober together, or you know, whatever you're fighting through, whatever, even if it's just depression, whatever. You could do this. We can start together. So, never alone. Always gonna be there. And please, you are worth living, and you are worth. Ready. Bye bye.